So when you think about security, right, the imagery that immediately jumps to mind is usually, well, it's heavily physical.
Oh, absolutely. Like you picture a deadbolt on a reinforced front door or maybe a biometric scanner.
Right, exactly. Or even, a complex firewall guarding a server somewhere.
Hmm.
We invest massive amounts of time and capital into protecting our tangible assets,
Yeah, and our physical safety, of course.
for sure. But the notes you sent us for today's deep dive, they introduce this completely different architecture of defense. It's fascinating.
It really is. It's a completely different way of looking at what we need protection from.
Yeah, because we are looking at this 16-word concept today, just 16 words. But it acts as this highly specific blueprint for, like, psychological fortification.
Right. It's incredibly potent.
So for you listening, here's the quote we are diving into today. Quote, "May you be protected from eyes who are secretly not happy to see you win in life."
It's a striking sentiment, isn't it?
It really is. It hits hard.
Because it targets a threat vector that, completely bypasses every physical alarm system we could possibly build.
Right. A deadbolt isn't going to stop this.
Exactly. We're dealing with the emotional and the psychological toll of navigating invisible hostility. I mean, this isn't about the overt enemy who just declares war on you.
Yeah, you see them coming.
Right. It's about that ambient, draining reality of conditional support, from the people right in your immediate orbit.
Which is such a fascinating nuance to explore. I mean, dedicating a whole deep dive to just 16 words might seem unusual, but
But there's just so much packed in there.
so much.
Yeah.
And to really understand the anatomy of this invisible hostility, I think we have to start by looking at the mechanism of perception itself.
I agree. The specific phrasing is deliberate.
Yeah, the phrasing uses the word eyes, right?
Hmm.
Rather than people or friends or peers, it just says eyes.
And that's actually huge from an evolutionary biology standpoint.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, human beings are uniquely wired to be kind of obsessed with eyes.
Okay, I'm listening.
There's this thing called a cooperative eye hypothesis. It basically points out that humans are the only primates with a highly visible white sclera, the whites of our eyes.
Oh, wow. I never actually thought about that. Other primates don't have that.
No, they don't. Our eyes evolved this way specifically so other humans could easily track our gaze.
So it's like a communication tool.
Exactly. It was a vital tool for social cooperation and shared attention. We need to know what the other person is looking at to survive together.
Which makes the linguistic choice in this quote, like, so chilling to me.
It really is, because by isolating the observer down to just their eyes,
It strips away everything else.
yes, that evolutionary tool for cooperation is completely inverted. It strips away the empathy, the context, the mutual exchange of energy that makes up a whole human being.
Wow. So they aren't a person anymore.
Right. The observer is no longer a friend or a colleague. They're just reduced to this passive data-consuming organ.
A data-consuming organ. That is such a good way to put it.
It transforms what should be an interactive relationship into unidirectional surveillance.
Unidirectional surveillance. That reminds me heavily of Foucault's concept of the panopticon.
Oh, absolutely. The perfect analogy.
For anyone listening who hasn't read Foucault's theories on discipline, the panopticon is it's a conceptual prison design.
Right. Designed by Jeremy Bentham originally, I think.
Yes, exactly. Where a single guard tower sits in the very center of a circular ring of cells. And the inmates, they can't see into the tower.
So they never actually know if they're being watched at any given moment.
Exactly. The brilliance and honestly, the terror of the design is that the inmates internalize the gaze.
Because the invisible eyes might be on them?
Right. They start policing themselves, and that feels like the exact psychological weight being described here with these eyes.
And the modern application of that concept is just inescapable today, especially with how we live online.
Oh, for sure. Social media is basically a giant panopticon.
Literally. Think about it. You post a milestone, right? A career success or personal victory. And what do you get? You literally receive a metric of a little eye icon next to a number.
Oh my gosh, you're right. The view count.
3,000 views. But you have absolutely zero insight into the emotional state of those 3,000 observers.
Not at all. They're just a number.
Right. You just carry this heavy unidirectional burden of knowing you've been perceived.
You become the subject under the microscope.
Exactly. And the asymmetry of that dynamic where they can see you but you can't really see them, it triggers a very primal vulnerability.
And I think that asymmetry is where the real danger lies in this quote. I mean, being watched by a cheering crowd is validating, right?
That feels great.
But being watched by an invisible audience creates this weird, um, emotional, uncanny valley, especially when the emotion behind the gaze doesn't match the surface presentation.
Which brings us to the next part of the quote.
Right. The quote specifies that these eyes are secretly not happy.
Secretly. That's the key word.
Yeah, because an open enemy, that gives you the gift of predictability. If a rival publicly hates you, the boundaries are drawn.
You know exactly where you stand.
Exactly. You can maneuver around them. But this hidden resentment, it operates like a Trojan horse in your social circle.
And the psychological cost of navigating a Trojan horse like that is incredibly steep.
I can imagine it has to be exhausting.
It literally is. In psychology, there is this concept regarding ambivalent relationships.
Ambivalent relationships, like frenemies.
Exactly. Colloquially, we call them frenemies. These are people in your network who provide a mix of positive and negative interactions.
Okay, so they aren't always mean. Sometimes they are supportive.
Right, which is what makes it so confusing. And studies have consistently shown that ambivalent relationships actually elevate your resting heart rate, cardiovascular reactivity, and even your cortisol levels.
Wait, really? More than just pure enemies?
Significantly more. They elevate your stress markers much more than relationships with purely negative people.
Wow. I guess because with a purely negative person, your nervous system knows exactly what protocol to run.
Exactly. The threat is identified and tagged.
But an ambivalent relationship requires, constant computation. You're always trying to figure out what's real.
Precisely. The cognitive load is immense. You are interacting with a face that is offering you congratulations, maybe even smiling and clapping for your success.
But internally, they are harboring this resentment.
Right. And human beings are incredibly adept at subconsciously picking up on things like Paul Ekman's micro-expressions.
Micro-expressions, you mean those tiny facial twitches?
Yeah, those fleeting, involuntary facial movements that reveal true emotion before the person can hide it.
Oh, like when someone forces a smile but their eyes look completely dead?
Exactly. A real smile, a Duchenne smile, engages the orbicularis oculi muscles around the eyes.
The little crinkles.
Right. But when someone offers a fake smile where just the mouth moves but the eyes don't engage, your conscious brain might hear, "Congratulations," but your amygdala registers a threat.
That is so wild. It creates this massive cognitive dissonance alarm in your head.
Right. Your brain is essentially screaming that the data points aren't aligning.
It's like the water looks clear, but it tastes slightly toxic.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
And because you can't definitively prove the hidden envy, I mean, you can't just accuse them based on a micro-expression. You end up internalizing the anxiety.
You do. You start walking on eggshells around your own success.
Yeah, because you're trying to manage this weird emotional current that you technically aren't supposed to know exists.
Which is a profound drain on your executive
I
function.
bet. It takes so much energy.
It does. Instead of utilizing your energy to celebrate your win or plan your next move, you are burning bandwidth acting as a human lie detector.
Just constantly trying to decode the subtle shifts in tone and body language of the people closest to you.
And that proximity is what makes the secret so destabilizing.
Right, because these aren't strangers in the Panopticon Tower.
No, these are often your peers, your acquaintances, and occasionally, sadly, even your family.
Wow. Okay, so we have this draining asymmetrical surveillance, and we have the physiological toll of navigating fake happiness, the cortisol spikes.
Right.
But to truly dismantle this dynamic, I feel like we have to look at the catalyst.
The trigger.
Yeah, the trigger. Like, why are they staring in the first place? Why are they secretly unhappy?
The quote gives us the exact answer.
Right, the trigger identified is to see you win in life, which is so sad when you think about it.
It is.
Because we tend to intellectualize life as a positive-sum game, right? If I get a promotion or find a fulfilling relationship or get financially stable.
It doesn't deplete the global reservoir of happiness.
Exactly. My win shouldn't logically dictate your loss.
Logic, unfortunately, takes a back seat to the mechanisms of social comparison here.
Really? How so?
What we're really dealing with here is relative deprivation theory.
Relative deprivation theory. Okay, unpack that for me.
Sure. Human beings rarely evaluate their success in a vacuum. We evaluate our standing relative to our immediate in-group.
Ah, okay. So it's all about comparison.
Exactly. If everyone in your circle is driving a 10-year-old car, you feel perfectly content with your 10-year-old car.
Right, because we are all in the same boat.
But the moment you buy a brand new luxury vehicle, the objective reality of their cars hasn't changed at all.
No, their cars are exactly the same.
But their relative status has suddenly plummeted.
Oh, wow. So their stationary position suddenly feels like a demotion just because of your forward momentum.
You nailed it. Your success acts as a deeply uncomfortable mirror for them.
A mirror. That makes so much sense. If we were standing side by side, right, and I suddenly sprint ahead.
It forces you to look at your own lack of movement.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the secret unhappiness has absolutely nothing to do with my success.
Nothing at all.
It's everything to do with their own existential dread about their unmet potential.
Precisely. And we have to recognize how deeply rooted that reflex is in our evolutionary history, too.
Like going back to the tribal days.
Exactly. We evolved in small tribal groups of around maybe 150 people. In that setting, social status and hierarchy were directly tied to survival.
Right. Access to food, resources.
Right. So in that primitive context, status actually was a zero-sum game. If someone else ascended the hierarchy, it genuinely posed a threat to your standing and your survival.
Oh, I see. So when someone sees you win in life today, a very primitive part of their brain perceives your elevation as an active demotion of their own survival value.
Yes, it reframes the envy completely. It's
Okay.
not necessarily a malicious attack. It's a very fragile ego defense mechanism.
That is so interesting. The ego is just trying to protect itself from the pain of realization.
It is agonizingly difficult to look at a peer's success and honestly say, they worked harder than me, they took bigger risks, and I need to fundamentally change my own behavior.
Oh yeah, no one wants to admit that. It's so much easier to just be bitter.
It is infinitely easier for the ego to project that discomfort outward. If they secretly hope you fail, or if they find a way to undermine your win, it shatters the mirror.
Because your failure restores the comfortable equilibrium.
Exactly. So they don't have to face their own reflection anymore.
Wow. Which really highlights this trap that so many highly capable people fall into, you know?
Oh, the shrinking themselves trap.
Yes. When you sense that your success is triggering the hidden envy of those around you, the empathetic reflex is often to just shrink yourself.
You stop talking about your wins.
Right. You downplay your achievements, you dim your own light just to avoid casting a shadow that makes other people uncomfortable.
But accommodating someone else's ego defense mechanism like that is a profound disservice to your own trajectory.
Absolutely. And that is the exact pivot point where the concept of protection in this quote becomes so vital.
The very first word.
Yes. May you be protected. We've deconstructed the heavy gaze, the exhausting micro-expressions of fake joy, the evolutionary triggers.
Right, the whole mechanism.
But this opening phrase, may you be protected, it reads almost like an incantation for emotional fortitude.
It does have that kind of ancient blessing feel to it.
Yeah. But if the threat is entirely invisible and we can't buy a deadbolt to keep out a secret thought, how do we actually get that protection?
The architecture of this protection has to be entirely internal.
Internal, so mind over matter.
It requires a fundamental shift in your locus of control. The protection cannot be about trying to change the gaze.
Or forcing people to be genuinely happy for you.
Right. You have zero jurisdiction over the hidden emotional processing of another human being.
True. That's totally out of our hands.
So a psychological shield is built through the process of psychological differentiation.
Psychological differentiation. What does that look like in practice?
It's the ability to maintain your own emotional state and your own sense of reality completely independent of the emotional states of those around you.
Oh, I love that. It heavily aligns with Stoic philosophy, actually.
Oh, absolutely. The Stoics were masters of this.
Yeah, like Epictetus talks constantly about separating what is within our control from what is outside of it.
Exactly.
The applause of the crowd, the hidden resentment of a peer, the asymmetry of that Foucault panopticon we talked about, those are all externalities.
They are completely outside your control.
Right. So if your self-worth and your validation require the genuine, unadulterated joy of the people watching you, you are basically handing the remote control of your nervous system over to their evolutionary insecurities.
That is a brilliant way to phrase it. You're giving them the remote control.
Yeah. So how do we take it back?
The shift happens when you utilize cognitive diffusion.
Diffusion with an S.
Yes, diffusion. Unfusing yourself from the thought. When you walk into a room and your brain picks up on that emotional uncanny valley.
Like when the smile doesn't reach the eyes.
Right. Instead of spiraling into anxiety or suddenly people-pleasing to fix it, you observe the data and you diffuse it from your self-concept.
So you acknowledge it, but don't absorb it.
Exactly. You recognize it by saying, they're struggling with their reflection in the mirror of my success.
That is information about their internal state. It is
Yeah.
not a verdict on my achievement.
Exactly. That is cognitive diffusion in action.
That is incredibly empowering. because it neutralizes the threat without requiring a confrontation.
You don't have to call them out.
Right. You aren't building a wall to keep them out. You are just rendering their secret unhappiness irrelevant to your joy.
Irrelevant, that's the perfect word.
It's like boundary setting on a spiritual level. You can calmly accept that the invisible negativity is out there in the dark, watching, and yet still aggressively and joyfully continue to win.
Because it strips the eyes of their perceived power over you.
Yeah, the observer believes they have leverage because they are judging you.
But true internal fortification makes their judgment a complete non-factor. You are operating from an internal locus of validation based on your own integrity.
Your own work ethic.
And your own goals. The background noise of their resentment simply becomes, well, an inevitable byproduct of climbing higher up the mountain.
Right, because the higher you climb, the more visible you become to the eyes below. It's just an unavoidable physics of success.
It really is.
Wow. We have traveled through such a dense psychological landscape today, starting from just 16 words in your notes.
We really unpacked a lot.
We did. We explored Foucault's panopticon and the evolutionary weight of being perceived without connection.
We decoded the draining cognitive load of ambivalent relationships.
Right, and the physiological cost of navigating fake happiness.
And we also unpacked the deeply ingrained mechanics of relative deprivation, seeing how your success acts as a mirror that forces others to confront their own stationary positions.
Triggering that ancient zero-sum ego defense.
Exactly.
And ultimately, we arrived at the inner citadel, this realization that true protection isn't about controlling the invisible hostility of the crowd.
It's about building that internal locus of validation.
Yes, rendering their hidden envy completely powerless over your trajectory.
Oh.
So, for you listening, as you continue to strive and push your boundaries, you just have to accept that not every cheer is going to be authentic.
And that is perfectly fine.
It is. Their authenticity is not a required ingredient for your success. Don't let the fear of triggering someone else's insecurity stop you from reaching your absolute highest potential.
A vital takeaway. But as we synthesize all of this, it actually brings up a necessary, if slightly uncomfortable, inversion of the dynamic we've been discussing today.
Yes, I am so glad you brought that up, because I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over when this deep dive is done.
It's an important pivot.
Throughout this entire exploration, we have naturally assumed the role of the protagonist, right?
Of course.
We are the ones winning. We are the ones being watched by the hidden, envious eyes in the dark. It is definitely the most comfortable position for our own egos to inhabit.
It feels good to be the winner in the story.
But if we are going to be brutally honest about human nature, we have to look in the other direction.
Which requires a tremendous amount of self-awareness to just flip the script like that.
It really does, because we have to ask ourselves, is it possible that at some point in our lives we have been the eyes?
Wow.
Have we ever watched a colleague or a friend or a rival achieve the exact milestone we desperately wanted?
And while we offered a smile and a warm congratulation,
We were secretly not happy to see them win. Did their success force us to look into a mirror we weren't ready to face?
the discomfort of that question, that is where real growth happens.
Really?
Because recognizing our own capacity for that hidden resentment is the very first step in dismantling it within ourselves.
Exactly. If we can identify when we are peering over the fence, projecting our unmet potential onto someone else's victory, we can start doing the actual work.
Moving ourselves forward instead of wishing they would slow down.
Beautifully said. Moving ourselves forward. Well, until next time, keep your peace protected, keep winning, and keep analyzing what you see in the mirror.